Here we're going to follow on from episode 1 and discuss our ordering of the MCU Phase 2 movies.
Mm-hmm. So, we're going to be starting off, as is, with Iron Man 3. Now, we pretty much covered like what our thoughts are on this like Iron Man series as a whole, because as of the end of Phase 2, it's had the most films to it. And also, it had to act as the first post-Avengers film.
That's a hard mantle to have.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really happy they followed it up quite directly with having Stark deal with the PTSD of, seeing the whole alien armada. Which, believe it or not, it actually got praise from medical societies.
Really?
Yeah, apparently it was a very realistic depiction of anxiety and PTSD. So
It was not only him as well, it was the victims of the formula, whatever formula it was when they essentially enhanced the humans. They were people who were... Some of them were combat injuries from the military, and some of them were different things. That was quite an interesting topic to go for.
Yeah, as the films go on, they start to deal with a lot more of the post-Avengers sort of stuff whenever they do something big. So, what do you want to say about this?
The most interesting for me about thing in this film for me is the villain choice, because I don't know how much you know of the Mandarin.
I do know a fair bit.
Okay, so that's good. So once his name was mentioned, you had an expectation in mind.
Yeah. Also, a small side note: when Stark gets captured, I'm sure we know, but just for those who don't, when Stark was captured and the footage was broadcast, you'll notice that there's a flag behind him with how many rings is it? Is it 10?
He has 10 rings. Yeah.
Yep, the 10 rings. So that was a really cool nod to the Mandarin. Well before then, and the Mandarin is actually one of the most prominent Iron Man villains.
Yes, he is described as his arch enemy.
Yeah, he's the closest thing to an arch nemesis he's got.
But it's a really interesting choice in not the villain, but the way they portrayed it. Because obviously, he's a fake, and it turns out that the main villain was the guy with dragon breathing, tattoo wearing person who resembles most closely Fin Fang Foom. Which is for me is a really interesting villain in the Marvel Universe, because it's so left field of what you'd expect Disney to pick.
Yeah.
Even though it's clearly not a dragon, it's a person. But to have those two villains in that film is such a cool way of doing it, and the left field take that they had of having one of the funniest roles in an Iron Man film in Ben Kingsley playing the Mandarin.
That's fantastic.
Like as this drug addict, alcoholic actor.
Yeah. I want to start off by saying that, and I noticed this straight away after seeing it, one of the major themes in this film is Iron Man versus Tony Stark. Because
you see it in the suits
exactly
being attached.
Like one of the first things they'll shove in your face is that Stark can make his suits independent of himself, and for a good majority of the film, he's not in the suit.
No, it's when he tries to get away with it with Pepper Potts, when she comes back home, and then when he's saving the people on Air Force One, he's also not in the suit.
Exactly, and there's all the bit in between where he meets a spunky teenage kid sidekick.
He's cool. As much as rapper's kid actors get, he's cool.
Yeah,
and the payoff for him when he gets his garage.
Yeah,
outfit,
that was good.
That's cool.
The bit where he says, "Oh, we have a connection." that had me laughing out loud. I like that. I also want to mention that I briefly talked about how Iron Man's like very, very heavy on FX.
Yeah.
They get really, really detailed in this film.
You think?
I think one of my favourite moments is, when one of the bad guys, Goons, comes over and he rips up the water tower.
Yeah.
And the way he pulls down and how the metal looks,
folds,
it looks like it folds like you'd expect molten lava to.
That's cool.
I looked at that and thought, oh my god! And then you sit and wait for the post-credits film, and just a giant wall of FX animators appears for you. Like
that's now a staple in every Marvel film.
We haven't even got to Doctor Strange yet.
Yeah.
We'll see how bad that is when we eventually see it.
One of the interesting things is how they changed the War Machine character, and essentially they diluted him. The actual person inside the suit, Mr. Rhodes, and from changing the actor in Iron Man 2 to giving him a fairly prominent role in that film, and then to going, right, we're going to draw that back. Though I thought that was a bit of a shame, because you only really see him properly in the second half of the film.
Yeah,
and most of that's within an action sequence, and it's not massive character development in that sense.
Yeah, I want to talk about the ending. I really, really want to talk about the ending to this film.
Which part of it?
a good amount of it. Okay, I liked that in a couple moments when Stark was going to save Pepper, he got out the suit.
Yes.
Which is another good. I like that they were dealing with that theme of the separation of Tony being like an actual hero,
but it's almost like he can't trust his suits either. Like he's got them to take care of the goons around that final scene, but then it's him who's dealing with the main villain. It's him who's trying to save Pepper.
Yep, I enjoyed that. Pepper getting the last hit on the big. I hated that bit so much, and I still do. And it's left such a bad taste in my mouth. I cannot stand it. That how many 50 costumes couldn't do Pepper Potts does in one swing.
Yeah, it's Disney. But I think in terms of her character, it could have worked a bit better. But there must be so many bits of tape of her, of development of her on the editing room floor. Because I know in the trailer that there's bits of the Iron Man 3 and Iron Man 2 that with her that would cut from the film.
Okay.
I feel a bit sorry for her character, that it's not, that the film isn't 5 minutes longer to make her character fit in better.
Yeah, but no, damsel in distress roles. We're getting into that territory now
again.
Oh yeah. Little side note as well is that I think that this is when like the formula is starting to get more apparent. Now we're entering phase 2. We said in the last video that each film is it stands up on its own, but it's generally part of a bigger structure, and each film has got more of an identity. Now we're starting to realise the pattern a bit more.
Most films in phase 2 have this big end of film battle sequence, but I didn't actually mind this one as much as other phase 2 films, because it's so low key. It's just on this shipping yard rig. It's not New York. It's not Chechnya or wherever that thing was in Ultron. It's very confined to one villain, a few henchmen, and then whatever Iron Man brings to that. So I don't mind it so much.
This does a lot of things better than Iron Man 1, but it still has a few pitfalls, which I think put it a little bit below that film to me. But I'll give it credit, though. This was a great introduction to phase 2, and it overall is just a pretty damn good one. I think I'm giving it a little bit more. I think I like it a bit more than I should.
No, I agree. It's an improvement in places on Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
It's almost the sequel that should have been.
Yeah.
To Iron Man 1. I think Iron Man, as we said, it didn't really do it justice, and this really brings that series back around to one that I think Marvel can look back on and say this is what we wanted to do with Tony Stark. So that's in the middle of our phase 2.
Yep.
And then what is next?
Next we have Thor: The Dark World.
Okay, I'll let you start, because judging by your face, this isn't your favourite Marvel film.
This is my least favourite Marvel film.
Ever?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
This does nothing new, and it does nothing exciting.
I will completely agree with that. I'll admit that it is formulaic to the T for what we now know is a Marvel film.
It's another fish out of water story. It got one good joke out of me when he hangs up his hat, when he hangs up Mjolnir on the hanger. And that's it.
The thing is, as I've made clear in the last video, I'm such a Thor fan.
Yeah.
And simply because he's in it and he talks and does stuff, then and of course Loki's in it, which I think is the best part of the film, where they clearly know how to win the fans, and they get Loki back in a different role this time. I think it's cool.
This is one of those one and done kind of films for me. This is in that same region as Hulk, where I enjoyed it to a degree at the time, but I'm sure the more I'd watch it, the more I realise that actually this it's making Jane Foster plot bait again.
It's just such a disservice to her character.
Yeah,
such a shame.
Is she a good character in the comics then?
Well, it depends which one you read, but from the ones I've read, then yes. It's such a shame as well that they use Chris Eccleston as well as that. He's such a good actor.
I was gutted. I was gutted when I realised he's barely in the film at all, and all he does is just stare out into the distance and look weird.
But another thing that really it doesn't make it like a complete rubbish bin film for me is the action sequences.
Yeah,
because Thor has a really interesting take on them, because he has a hammer, obviously, and the way he uses that, and the primitive weapons that the rest of Asgard use is really really good take on it, rather than having guns or rockets or whatever that they use in the different films.
This is about as safe and predictable, I think, as they're ever going to get.
On my list, I've got this 5th out of 6th. Which, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So, really?
So as much as that is a surprise to you, that says to me how bad of a film it is, even though I like Thor.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which I think the overall verdict on this one is like, watch it
once.
Watch it once. Give it. To be fair, you can actually give it. You can watch it and enjoy it. You know, obviously, opinion subjective.
I have no rush in going back to see this.
I don't think I've seen this since I first watched it.
So that is below Iron Man 3.
Yeah, and that's not just below, as in because of the second one. That it's going to be nice and comfy in the bottom place for a long while until we get down the rest of this list.
We'll debate that.
Right.
What's next?
Captain America: Winter Soldier. I like this film.
Cool film.
I really, really, really like this film.
It has so much similar, surprisingly, to the first Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the timeline that it's in, it does it so differently because it's still got that Hydra element to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's still got Cap leading the charge, trying to sort of solve the situation. But because it's a modern retake on it, you don't even recognise that. It's a totally different film, totally different take, which is nice.
A lot of the pitfalls that typically befell Marvel films don't apply here. Yeah. Like, the theming of it is more like a spy espionage kind of film, which works surprisingly well considering everyone knows who Captain America was.
And now we see in Civil War, we understand just why Bucky gets so much screen time in this. Not only because he's just the villain in the film, but we really get to see his character, which is good. I think he's also just a great villain in general. Mm-hmm. He sets during that first fight scene, he sets a precedence that him and Cap it's that good bit where introductory fights go where the bad guy is more powerful to start. So you have got something to look forward to for the big Act 3 payoff that you know is going to happen. The action sequences are great. Obviously, the choreography is good. I enjoyed Black Widow. I've done it this time now. I enjoyed Cap and Black Widow's interactions a lot more than I thought. Yeah, for the films that she's been in as a bit part, this is the best one, I think.
Definitely.
Because they give her more screen time and she's almost as much of the main character as Cap in this.
She's a secondary character. That's fair to put it. I like that they also went into the... It's rare that the films really touch into, like, you know, the other side things, but obviously, I think this is when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was still running.
Yes, it was.
So to have S.H.I.E.L.D. as the big bad this time, that was actually a really good turn. And it still has big effects, you know, outside as well.
I really enjoyed going back to Hydra, that underground base, that going back to the old S.H.I.E.L.D. symbol and finding out about how the sub-villain in the first Avenger comes back into it. That was nice.
I'll admit as well, I thought Nick Fury was dead.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow. Gullible.
Yeah, I know. I'm a typical gullible audience. I was there in my Captain America shirt with my Nick Fury flag. Look, hey!
You have a Nick Fury flag?
I wish.
Eye patch going
woo. The final sequence as well. I also liked how, you know, it's multiple things going on. You've got the carrier about to crash.
Oh, talk to me about that.
Okay, hang on. Let's get to it. You've got Cap and Bucky fighting, and then you've also got Black Widow, darn it.
Yeah.
Negotiating with them, yeah. And also Falcon.
Yeah, we're forgetting about Falcon, which is it's such a cool way that they've portrayed it with the mechanical wings. Instead of he's just a normal person, but gets transformed into this superhero, which is because they've got such a great relationship in the comics, in the different stories. I think it's such a good idea to put them together here.
Yep.
And they're from such similar backgrounds, which is nice. So it doesn't limit you to not revisiting Captain America's sort of 1940s persona.
Yeah, I also like the very beginning when he just pulls out a little list of things he has to catch up on, and it's like it's got Star Wars on it. I think it's got like Star Wars, other sort of stuff, like all the music he's missed out on, like these ridiculously big thing. That's all the character you need.
Yeah,
that's all I needed to get invested in. Obviously, he's such a likable guy anyway. And you talked about the helicarrier for a second.
Oh, it's another formulaic ending to a Marvel film.
Yeah.
In an espionage film, like you said, what's the point? I just don't see the point in that. you could have quite easily had a ship sinking, and that would have not destroyed any buildings. It would have been the same platform. You could have had the same sets, and it wouldn't have needed it.
There's a reason why Deadpool chose to have its final scene on like the ruins of an old helicarrier, so, or something akin to that.
But I promise this is the last time I'm going to go on about a ridiculously cinematic ending, because it comes up again and again and again in Phase 2.
Yeah, Phase 2 is a lot more repetitive than. Although I think Phase 2 has got its low points, but I think it's got some of the highest points in the whole series. Like this is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
This is this and my second choice could swap out.
Wow, this is going to be such a difficult ranking this episode. we vary wildly on this as far as I can see.
Okay, so I'm happy to put this at number 1 for now.
No, I just. Yeah.
Can you not? Is your inner Thor fanboy going to come out?
No, Thor's bottom, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, Iron Man 3, I think, is better than this.
Oh god, we're a bit of an impasse here. How adamant are you on keeping Iron Man 3 number 1?
Not as adamant as you might think, but just.
For
me, it comes down to the twist on the villains, because it's such a different thing to do.
I will begrudgingly accept Iron Man 3 as the better film, but let's just acknowledge that they are like that close.
We can put, if we disagree so much, we can put them as like 1A and 1B.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So they're joint there at the moment.
I'm fine with that. So right now we've got Iron Man 3 and Cap.
Yeah.
Running for first place, and Thor 2 hasn't even heard the starting gun.
Is second. Thor is second. No, third. It's third in that order. Yeah.
Right, now we've got. Okay, now before we talk about this, I really want to reiterate a point that when the trailer for this film came out.
Which film?
I'm
rubbish on the order.
The film in question is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Such a good film.
When this trailer came out, you think, oh, because so far we've just had repeats.
Mm-hmm.
We know who this is. If you went up to someone, like 100 people, you asked them before all this went on, do you know who Iron Man is? Do you know who Thor is? Do you know who Captain America is? You'd get a fair few people who'd say, oh yeah, I know of them. No one knew about the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, no one knew about Star-Lord. I mean, even in the film, he goes, Star-Lord.
Yeah.
Star-Lord.
But literally no one outside the comic buying audience had any clue about this group at all. So to pick them is another odd choice. I gotta say, the trailer did this film an absolute justice.
You say it's odd, but it's also the most obvious thing to do as well, because it's beginning to get, some parts are beginning to get slightly stale at this point. And so to put this complete refreshment on it and go beyond Earth, better than I think they're doing Thor, to explore the galaxy is.
Yeah, this was our lead up to Age of Ultron as well. Unofficially, officially, although
I kind of feel sorry for Age of Ultron in that sense.
Yeah, this is also one of the great films where you could just watch completely independently. You can, if you want to get somebody if you really want to get somebody into comics, I would actually say watch Iron Man 1 first, because that's a nice overall tone of what the MCU looks like. Then I'd probably recommend this one as just first going in, because you do not have to know anything. It's all done perfectly fine.
For me, this is Avengers without any constraints. Because with the Avengers, you've got 5 films to tie in and work off, whereas this is completely new. You can introduce whatever you want, and you can take whatever storyline you want, as long as it's with an Infinity Gem, obviously.
Yeah. The setup I thought for Star-Lord was good as well. It was just 5 minutes. Here's your sympathy. You've got the character.
Introduction to that soundtrack as well, which I have not stopped playing since that movie came out.
It is a great soundtrack.
It introduced me to decades that I never listened to music before, and they are good.
The song where he's in the cave about to get the orb and he's kicking the rats about. I love that song to bits.
It's just, there's so many things right.
It also does a decent world build as well, because you understand that the Nova Corps, by the way, God's sakes, Marvel, please make a Nova film.
Yes, please put him in Guardians Volume 2, even though it's already made.
Even though it's already done and dusted, please at least just have his helmet just sitting there, because I'm fine with John C. Reilly being a member of the Nova Corps.
That's pretty cool, because and the guy from Shaun of the Dead is in it as well. And it sets the film really well. And to make Dave Bautista act well
okay,
in a comedic role is fantastic.
Having the character interactions as well, having them be in a prison as well, great. The unusual casting of this film is one of its shining points to me, because did you ever is it Parks and Recreation that Chris Pratt's in?
Yes.
Who'd have picked him to have been the lead role?
I know. And then if you look at him in the first series of Parks and Rec, and then look at him now, it's just a transformation.
Oh God, he's like big. He's pretty fat in the first series of Parks and Rec.
He lives in a hole in the ground.
Drax,
he's such a good character, and
I laughed so much. Like, you know, nothing would fly over my head. I would catch it.
It's such an obvious thing to make the meathead funny.
Yeah,
but to make him funny in that sense, like going off his backstory and the race he's from, it's a really nice take on it.
It always gives me mild Star Wars vibes. This film does. When I watched it. I'm glad you agree with that. Yeah.
And then you've got the bit at the end which we won't talk about because it's so generic to Marvel.
What?
The action sequence.
To be honest, this action sequence, it feels like everyone pulling it together, and it ends with a dance off.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that
it does have a bit too corny moments, like, you know, we are Groot and the whole group holding hands to deflect the orb's energy.
Yeah, but
I can forgive those 5 minutes for the other 2 hours of great film we got.
It fits the tone in a way, and of course Disney.
And of course Disney. Yeah, I just love. The one joke sticks out to me, you know, this rodent is my friend. This giant tree is this green whore is my friend. It just kills me how he pulled that off. You know, when the battle's done and Rocket Raccoon's holding the twig of Groot.
Oh yeah.
Quite emotionally, he's crying over it. Out of context, that means nothing. No. But I like the emotional weight that it carries as well.
It's amazing the transformation that the viewer goes through from the beginning of the film, going, "Who the hell are these?" to then like feeling part of that team and feeling such a connection with the characters.
Yeah, I think that's all we need to say about this. If you can't tell, we really like this film a lot.
For my personal list, this is number one.
Yeah, I'm happy to. When I was talking about how Captain America, Winter Soldier is one of my favorites, this and Guardians do flip fairly. But I think I'm happy with Guardians being number one.
Okay.
Definitely happy with it taking that.
Excellent.
And I'm also really happy that this film was such a big success in general, because
it was such a risk for them to take, wasn't it?
Because you played it safe, you've kept it primary Avengers for such a long time. Then you throw this team which no one knows about, and then suddenly after this film does successfully well, we have Doctor Strange, Black Panther,
Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel.
Oh, in Inhumans maybe not.
Well, Inhumans, but that was
hopefully it comes back, but yeah.
This film opened up the floodgates, and I hope that they keep on making a lot more creative films like this. Because now we're about to get to a real stickler here.
Yeah. This next film is last on.
Hey, hang on.
No. I'll just say this because it is last on my list.
Okay.
That's where I'm coming from now. Okay. So what are we talking about?
We are talking about Avengers: Age of Ultron, which I think has gotten a lot more. Has got such an amount of flack because it came out in a real storm of Joss Whedon had a problem with this person. Disney wanted to intervene too much, because I can see where they're coming from a bit, because this is obviously the next $1 billion film. This is the cash cow now. It's really hard for me to separate first of all, hype. I think hype probably shot this film with a leg of it.
Like that trailer with the Pinocchio music in the background, wow. That was one of the best ones that we've seen. And then to have that last for so many months and then come up to the film, and then all of a sudden you want a big crescendo, and then it doesn't happen. Yeah.
So, what's the main grappling point you have with it?
It's just it's such a Marvel film, which sounds good, but when you is this like the 11th one or something that they've done? I think in the MCU it's the 11th one, and then
you're 11th
to go for the safe option again and again and again, and then come to this and then do it again. It's not inventive enough for me, which is it's probably an unfair criticism.
Mm.
Because if you took it without any hindsight and without any other films, you'd think good film,
Mm-hmm.
great performance by James Spader.
Yeah.
As Ultron, I thought he was fantastic. I thought the Black Widow and Hulk relationship built again in that.
It was.
Did you not? Anyway, we'll come to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But as a standalone film, good action film.
Mm-hmm.
But when you've had all the predecessors before it do essentially the same thing in different settings, I
Yeah.
think that's a bit of a letdown.
Okay, there's another thing with Black Widow is that so far we've had her bounce off everyone, but most male leads, except Thor. We had to sort of do that thing with Iron Man.
It's kind of a working relationship with Iron Man and Captain America, though.
I know, but I mean for the sake of just drawing in the general audience. Now I liked it to start with. I was like, okay, then we're finally going to give the fan fiction writers some more fuel. We're going to stoke that fire. That's fine. It's when we get into Black Widow's backstory that things start to get a bit messy.
I think it fits the theme of the film, though.
It does to a certain degree, but did it need it? Did we need to talk about... Did a Marvel film need to get into sterilization?
I think the issue there is that they're stepping on their own toes by not giving her own film soon enough. By putting her in these bit parts and not giving her enough development.
Where you have to just inject plot into crucial moments. Yeah. This sort of feels... Obviously, it feels like a bit of a disassembled film where this is the Avengers facing up to consequences. And also how... there's just so many... This is the most frustrating film to talk about because it does a lot of things right, but it does so many little things wrong.
Let's be positive for a second. What did you think of Scarlet Witch and the Quicksilver introduction?
I liked them. I really, honest to God, liked them. And also loved how they got around the mutants. Saying, that, what do they call them? The experiments?
Yeah. Forget that, but yeah.
But to be fair, though, they've got to get around the license. I actually liked this Scarlet Witch, obviously a lot more than the one that Fox has, because there is none.
Yes.
This Quicksilver, well, we all know he died anyway, so...
Yeah, it was a shame for him, but then for the audience, you don't feel so bad because you've got a really good iteration in the X-Men films.
Yeah. That's another fan theory, is that once they saw that they handled Quicksilver as such a main character in the X-Men films, they thought, we're not even going to try and compete.
To compete with that is difficult.
When we got to Hawkeye's family, I instantly thought, he's going to die in this film. Yeah. I'm sick to death of them acting like someone's going to die and just not having the guts to kill them off.
And it's almost a disservice to him as well, because it's like they pretend to care about him.
Yeah.
And put his family in there and give us 10 minutes of, let's feel sorry for him. But then that doesn't work because we don't feel sorry for him because we don't know him enough.
Yeah.
And the only thing that we really feel sorry for him for is because he's such a good friend to Black Widow, and we think, what's going to happen to her after this? And then nothing, and there's no consequence because he's fine.
We're going to get into this a little bit more with the next film we talk about, but I also think that intervention and the way things have panned out in the pre-production thing also messed it up a bit.
What do you mean?
Well, you know how Ultron was created by Hank Pym traditionally in the comics. Well, the next one we will talk about in a bit, Ant-Man, that obviously features Hank Pym.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks they probably would have, if Ant-Man hadn't gone through such a troubled production, and hadn't gone from director to writer and back and forth so on, they probably would have already introduced Ant-Man by this point.
Yeah.
And they would have already introduced Hank Pym. Henceforth, Ultron would have had like a creator who's separate from the main team.
I feel like that is slightly clunky having them in that order, having Ultron before Ant-Man in that sense.
Particularly once you know the link between the two of them.
Yeah.
Because Hank Pym is almost as famous for Ant-Man as he is for making Ultron,
I also don't mind that they did it this way because it gives Tony Stark and Bruce Banner another interaction and another bit of development there.
I think it's fair to say that the best thing to come out of this film is Paul Bettany as the Vision.
Yeah, that is fun.
Just, he's a incredibly overpowered character as well, but the way he thinks and that last discussion he has with Ultron, that ends it on a quite satisfying note.
To have the two of the best things to come out of that film in James Spader's voice acting and what's his name?
Paul Bettany.
Yeah, Paul Bettany's think, is having that interaction. It's a nice way to end a slightly disappointing film.
It sounds like we're being quite down on this film, to be honest, but it's the same thing with some of the other films we've been a bit negative on. Like, I'd put this in the same vein, not that we're comparing them at this moment, but I'd put this in the same vein as Hulk and Iron Man 2.
Yeah,
I'd put this as a one and done, or maybe even twice.
Like it did more wrong than it did right, but then still did things right. So it's not like we're saying this is a bad film and you shouldn't watch it. It's definitely rewatchable.
It's just that having it be another Avengers film, having the problems it already had, and particularly after coming off Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Guardians, which two of my strongest, and a few other people would agree that's a very hard thing to lift off from.
Yeah, I mean the universe could never keep on going up in film ratings. It always had to be a point where it came down, and unfortunately it was a crescendo of another Avengers film.
Which gives me hope for Infinity War, to be honest, because now they're allowing a lot more time for it.
So where are you going to put this?
I am fine with putting this above Thor 2.
Yeah, I think I was slightly harsh in saying that it was last.
Yeah.
Now that we've discussed it, I'd agree. So that is now 4th on our list, and Thor 2 is 5th.
That's fine. Now we're going to get to the red-headed stepchild of the MCU so far, which is Ant-Man.
This is such a refreshing take on it, and I've watched this a lot of times, and I'm still not bored of watching it. I could go for it again and again.
I watched it fairly recently, actually, and it held up surprisingly well. How do you feel about Paul Rudd's performance?
He's a nice, refreshing main character in that he's in there for the laughs.
Yeah.
He's not an action hero, and he takes a thief role, which is fine. It fits in with the character, but he definitely works out a laugh. And forget about Paul Rudd, his friend, the guy who talks so I can't remember his name. He talks so fast. And he's, amazing.
I also like how they sort of went with a bit of a theft film vibe as well, just a bit. I also like that I think this is the loose looking my notes. I think this is the only film where we've acknowledged there's a previous iteration. So it's nice having an actual mental figure.
Yeah,
because obviously you've got Hank Pym teaching
Scott Lang.
Yeah, you've got him teaching Scott how to do all these things because it's the exact same suit as well.
It's a nice way of getting around the confusion of the comics. After all the criticisms we'd have of the formula that we now know from Phase 2 of the big sequence at the end taking up a large part of the film with not much development going on there. This is exactly what the series needed, the refreshing take that we wanted. Quite a funny action sequence as well, which is what you'd expect.
When it cuts from the intense action sequence to them fighting on the train. I'm glad they went with that angle as well, because you obviously go from sweeping big panoramic shots. Now you're working on a micro scale. I was really happy they went with that kind of design choice. Obviously they have to if it's Ant-Man.
And we spoke about the special effects in the previous video for Ant-Man, but how well did they do here?
Yeah, I mean, then when he falls into the bath that first time, that's some pretty good work.
And through the keyhole and all sorts of things. There's so many examples of it.
Even like the ants when he's stepping, when he wakes up in the bed.
How cool was that?
Yeah. The close up of the ants could have been better, I think, when he's riding them.
Yeah.
That could have been done better, but they're only in the film for like a few seconds at a time.
Were you sad when the ant died?
A little bit, yeah.
Because for a film to make me care about an ant,
yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a shame it sort of falls another generic villain. It's got that Iron Man formula of using your own technology against you.
I know, but thankfully, just like Iron Man, we're not here for the villain. We're here for Scott Lang and Hank Pym and their reaction.
Yeah, we're here for the laughs. And this is a more comedic film, which is, because we had Ultron, which was a really serious film. Yeah. Thor, which was really serious aside from a few moments. It seems like the more lighter they play it, generally you're going to forgive it a bit more.
Definitely.
Because you'll always be able to point to a joke you like, or how Baskin Robbins always finds out.
What about that Thomas the Tank Engine product placement?
Oh, that was unbelievable. That was absolutely fantastic. I just mentioned Baskin Robbins as well, and that's the first thing you think of Thomas the Tank Engine. Brilliant.
Briefly going into Phase 3, not very much so, is to have that film be so successful with the audience, and to have that character really elevate himself from above some of the others in Phase 2, but then to have such a small part in Civil War, I feel so sad about that.
Him and Black Panther are I rate Black Panther a little bit more than most of us because he's the most fleshed out, but that trio of Black Panther, Spidey, and Ant-Man really, really made Civil War great for me.
Make Marvel great again.
Make Marvel great again.
Sorry.
I'm just imagining Trump as Thanos. Go make the universe great again. I'm gonna build a big wall. And kill all the superheroes. Right. So I'm not sure where to put this in my ranking. To be honest, if I was to grade this film, it would be a B.
I'd higher than that, I think.
But... You really think so?
On my list, I'd argue that it comes second, but I equally wouldn't mind putting it with Iron Man 3 and Captain America 2. Because I wouldn't say it was worse than either of those two.
I enjoy Iron Man and Captain America more as characters, so I'm happy to put it as below Winter Soldier and Iron Man 3, but I'm happy to put it behind them. So is a joint third. So is a third then even.
Yeah, we had this in the previous episode where we put Iron Man 1 as fourth.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem fair for that film, but when you've got very interchangeable top four, then yeah, I go for that. So we've got Guardians at 1, Iron Man 3 and Winter Soldier at joint second.
Yeah.
Then Ant-Man at 4th.
Yeah.
Ultron 5th, and Thor: The Dark World in the basement at 6th.
In the basement, and Natalie Portman's not going to be in it anymore. We're going to put in Hulk to make it extra better for everyone. It's all going to be good. How do you feel about Phase 2 overall then compared to Phase 1?
It does it well. It doesn't take too many risks, and it takes what was done in Phase 1 and elevates it to slightly to another level, and doesn't do much wrong. So I would apart from Guardians and Ant-Man, it's safe.
The formula is well and truly set by the end.
Oh, in Phase 3, I'm expecting much more risk, much less, much more variety.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, at least. Thank you for watching our episode on Marvel Phase 2 films, and I'm sure you disagree with that order, and let us know in the comments below.
Yep. We'll see you all in 2019 for our Phase 3 retrospective then. Take care, everyone. Bye.